You are a scribe holding a broken piece of limestone and a reed pen, taking attendance for the absentees at the settlement along the banks of the Nile. The year is 1250 BCE. The only reason you and this entire desert village exist is to decorate the tombs of the pharaohs over in the Valley of the Kings. Many women were counted as present at the site, but for 30 young girls, you write down just one short word: Hesmen. Yes, that is the official record for menstruating. Now, if you just sent this exact message to your boss today to ask for PTO, they might be so shocked they would actually fire you. No more rambling. Let's get straight to the point. Just the women of this ancient kingdom, how did they handle it? Here's the paradox. Nobody tells you about ancient Egypt. We know an absurd amount about the daily texture of this civilization. We have their tax receipts, their beer rations, and their petty neighborhood complaints. We possess a continuous written record spanning millennia because they obsessively documented everything on stone and papyrus. And yet, if you search for a direct answer about how a woman handled her physical cycle, you find absolute silence. There is no manual. There's no tomb painting of it. And they painted everything. They painted men making sandals, but not this. The gap exists entirely because of who held the pen. An official scribe was overwhelmingly male, writing strictly for state bureaucracy. Nobody documents the mundane realities everyone already knows. You never write down how to use a doorknob. To understand the physical body in Egypt, you must first understand a core concept. Their religion was magnificently obsessed with ritual purity, not morality purity. A priest had to meet a rigorous physical standard before speaking to the divine. You either met the checklist or you waited. It was a status you could lose and regain, and the primary substance they used to achieve this state was natron. This naturally occurring salt is a genuinely powerful cleaning agent. It was used to purify a temple and dry out a mummy. It was the ultimate material of becoming clean. The ancient word for this salt is hesmen. The ancient word for a woman's cycle is also hesmen. They were the exact same thing. The biological process was filed linguistically in the very same drawer as the purifying salt. The ancient mind did not sort this into the bin of pollution, contamination, or isolation. It was seen as the body naturally purging and cleansing itself. It was cleaning. That single categorical decision changed the reality of daily life. Most people assume the internet has the historical answer. You will read on countless websites that women used softened papyrus to handle their flow. It sounds plausible, but it is a complete fabrication. Nobody has ever found one. No ancient text describes it. It is simply a modern rumor. The real answer is wonderfully boring. It was linen. The entire economy ran on this specific material. They grew vast fields of flax. They wore it. They used it as currency. Ancient medical texts explicitly confirm doctors prescribed rolled cloth for internal treatments. Everything else follows logically: folded fabric pads, washed in the waters of the Nile, dried aggressively in the hot sun, used again and again. And here's the truly fascinating detail. At Deir el-Medina, managing this laundry was not a hidden domestic burden. It was a state-provided service. The village employed official washermen. They took the household cloth down to the water. We still have their dispute logs. The most invisible part of a biological cycle was an actual paid government job. Let's look at the medicine, because this is where written gynecology actually begins. Discovered in the late 19th century, a fragmented document from 1825 BCE survives today. It is the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus, the oldest known medical text regarding women's health on Earth. While their underlying theories were flawed, occasionally blaming ailments on a wandering womb, their practical treatments were astoundingly advanced. They prescribed honey, which is genuinely antibacterial. They used fermented acacia gum, which acts as a powerful spermicide. Centuries later, the Ebers Papyrus listed extensive remedies for adjusting an irregular flow. But the true masterpiece of ancient observation is their pregnancy test. The text outlines a strict procedure. A woman was instructed to pour her urine over separate bags of barley and emmer wheat for several days in a row. If the seeds sprouted, she was carrying a child. It sounds like agricultural magic, but modern researchers tested this exact claim in the 1960s. The elevated hormone levels in pregnant urine actually trigger seed germination with roughly 70% accuracy. The ancients had zero understanding of chemical messengers. They simply observed, experimented, and recorded. And this proves one undeniable fact. Ancient women were closely tracking their biological rhythms. A missed cycle was a highly anticipated event, and they possessed the scientific tools to find out exactly what it meant. Let us return to that broken shard of limestone at Deir el-Medina. A father or husband skipped his shift on the grand monuments of the pharaohs because a woman in his household was on her period. Why did her cycle require his absence? Historians fiercely debate three distinct readings. First, the domestic labor theory. If she temporarily stepped away from the intense physical demands of running an ancient household, someone had to pick up the slack. That someone was him. Second, the ritual theory. The home temporarily entered a unique state of purification, demanding specific ceremonial protocols before normal life resumed. Third, the spatial theory. Some scholars argue for a designated structure outside the village, where women temporarily resided, though this remains heavily contested. The precise logistical truth is still obscured by the sands of time. But look closely at the underlying reality all three theories share. The massive bureaucratic machine of the state simply accepted it. It went directly into the official record. It was a valid reason to miss a day of grueling labor. Nobody was penalized, nobody was shamed. A ruthless empire-building, monumental stone architecture seamlessly accommodated the biology of its people. There's one more piece to this puzzle, and it is entirely magical. Among the most common protective objects buried in the ancient sands is the tyet amulet. It looks remarkably like an ankh with its arms folded downward, frequently referred to as the knot of Isis. It was almost exclusively carved from deep red materials, red jasper, carnelian, and blood-red glass. The Book of the Dead gives explicit instructions for placing this crimson object directly at the throat of the deceased. Spell 156 states clearly that this specific object invokes the blood of Isis. Her power, her magic, it was designed to fiercely protect the dead in the perilous journey through the afterlife. Think about what that actually means. In a universe where later cultures would view female biology as a wicked curse that ruined crops or poisoned bees, the ancient mind saw something entirely different. The blood associated with the female body was not a symbol of death, contamination, or bad luck. It was an emblem of divine eternal protection. It was the ultimate shield. It was power. Here's the final twist that changes everything you just learned. A modern woman living with good nutrition will experience roughly 400 cycles in her lifetime. We quietly assume that is just the standard baseline of the human female body. But an ancient woman lived in a completely different biological reality. Her number was nowhere near that modern baseline. Start with the raw biology. Seasonal food stress meant her first cycle arrived much later. Then came early marriage. Then came relentless childbirth. In a brutal era of high infant mortality, large families were the absolute foundation of survival. Then came nursing. Ancient wisdom texts instructed a mother to breastfeed her child for up to 3 full years. This extended nursing triggers a biological mechanism called lactational amenorrhea. It naturally suppresses ovulation. It is real physiology. Stack these harsh variables together. A later start, repeated pregnancies, years of continuous breastfeeding, a radically shorter life expectancy. The math collapses. An ancient woman might experience only a few dozen cycles across her entire existence. We have been asking how they managed the constant burden of their biology, but it was never a constant burden. It was not the rhythm of her life. It was the interruption. It was an incredibly rare event, and when it finally arrived, it delivered an immense amount of information. It meant she was not pregnant. In a society built entirely around fertility, labor, and the continuation of the family name, that was not just a minor inconvenience. It was an earth-shattering piece of news. It was a signal. So what does this fragmented picture actually reveal? First, the physical material was never the true struggle. The ancient world was drowning in woven fabric. The logistics were solved long before anyone bothered to document them. Second, the conceptual category dictates everything. Classifying this biological reality as purification created a world of profound normalcy. Sorting it into the bin of pollution creates a world of absolute shame. The human biology remains exactly the same. The culture is always the defining variable. But perhaps the most beautiful takeaway is how we know this at all. We do not know these intimate details because a powerful ruler decreed it. We know it entirely by accident. A tired scribe simply wanted to cut corners on expensive stationery. He grabbed a piece of garbage rock to balance a daily labor report. The pharaohs spent unimaginable fortunes building colossal mountains of stone to guarantee their immortality. They desperately wanted you to remember their monumental power. But alongside those towering monuments, we accidentally remember the ordinary daughter of a working tomb builder. She received a single word scribbled on a broken rock. Turns out that was enough.